Ba-boom jam.
Hello, Internet. We're a show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, joined, as always, by Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Silverline show on Tuesday. Happy to see you guys.
Yes, and we're also joined by Jose Fuentes.
Keep it down. I'm still sleeping.
That's fair. Yeah, but we are the low effort, relaxed show. The West
Low effort.
And we're going to be talking about how to start reading comics. And this is a question that comes up every now and then, especially from the friends who get into it from the recent popularity of the MCU or anything like that. Are like, well, I want to read comics, but I don't know where to start. There's like 50,000 issues. So we're going to be talking about the best jumping on points. The pros and cons of how you collect them. Should you collect floppies? Should you just go for trades? How dedicated do you want to be from the get-go? So that'll be our topic of conversation for today. Before we get into it, it's been a little bit since we had Jose on the show. So how have you been doing, sir?
I have been well.
Good.
I know, it's been a minute, right?
Yes.
It's been forever.
You look good, Jose. What are you doing?
I am trying. I try to get out.
Yeah.
My kids drive me crazy. They're on summer break, so.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't done a lot. I haven't watched a lot. That's not true. I've actually started watching Andromeda. Andromeda.
Yes.
Never saw it before, so
Classic.
I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then
I've never seen it.
I started watching Resident Evil on Netflix.
Ooh, I need to start watching that because
that was. I think I'm like 2 or 3 episodes in. It's interesting.
I know the voice of Savala from Destiny is playing Wesker. So
yes.
Yeah. I like him, so I'm interested to see how that goes.
Like that dude as an actor is just really cool. Like he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, he's also the concierge in John Wick, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you've never seen Parabellum, he's the brother with the shotgun.
Yep. Yes. So good.
If we're talking about the same guy, the first time I saw him was I forget the name of the show, but it was really, really good. It was on Fox. I can't remember. Never mind. I can't remember the name of it.
Perfect.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, we are, like I said, we're talking about how to jump into comics.
The Fringe. Sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
The Fringe.
Oh, yep. I remember that. Man, that's some really stoned episodes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really because I was like, it felt like X-Files, but wanted to go just a little bit further at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah. So I guess we'll start off the conversation with how did we start reading comics? So we'll work our way from the far end of my screen back to me. So however I see that, I don't know if that's how you see it at home, but we'll start with Jose. How did you first get into reading comics? Did you jump straight in? Did you find something on the covers? How did you get into it?
So my dad was not very good at hiding his Conan comics. I don't know what the situation was, but he hid it under the bed. And from there, it was pretty much over for me because I read everything he had. Like I love the painted covers, you know what I mean, the Frazetta covers, and just like pretty much everything, and just the art on the inside, and I don't know, that's where it started for me. And then I kind of stopped because at that time I was like all about Star Wars. So, and then in junior high we were taking SATs or PSATs, whatever they were called at the time.
Oh yeah.
And I was bored. I ran out of paper. I didn't have anything to do. And this kid was like, hey, you want to read one of my comics? I'm like, sure. So he let me read Batman Detective Comics Mud Pack storyline. And that like was it. Like he told me there was a local comic shop, which I didn't even know there was a comic shop at the time. So I was like, what the heck? And then I found it was also a role playing store. So like that was like double win.
Yep.
And yeah, it's pretty much over after that. I just kept collecting comics, and then there are times where I couldn't afford comics, so that's the beauty of the library. You know what I mean? So just it may not be current, but you can keep reading. But I really like stuff that explained background stuff. So like DC's Who's Who, Marvel Encyclopedia. You know what I mean? So that you could read the character, read their background, their history, and their powers and stuff like that. So like that was it for me. Like basically, right out of the beginning, it was Conan.
There you go. Acting for yourself, were you going for like just one or two titles, or were you trying to grab a little bit of everything? Were you getting the singles or trades, and were you also getting the background books at the time?
I was just getting Batman, like just the floppies. Like I love floppies. Like I have long box after long box, and I have some graphic novels if I want to collect like a whole story because I didn't catch it from the beginning. But for the most part, if I can, I'll get the floppies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so you just kind of grabbed what was that month's issue and then went on from there.
Yep.
Perfect.
And then I learned about the new books that were coming out, and then it was after that was Green Lantern. Like I'm a huge Green Lantern fan.
Nice.
So
yeah. Quentin, how about yourself? How did you first get into it?
Well, I was pretty young. I have an older brother and I have an uncle that is just a little bit older than my older brother. And they both had comics, and I pretty much got the hand-me-downs from them. And the hand-me-downs were Secret Wars and stuff like that. So they bought them, read them, and just kind of threw them in a corner, and I picked them up. And man, I was already kind of drawn to the art, of books that I was already looking at, and man, I remember shots in my memory of reading and looking at the Secret Wars book and thinking, wow, this is amazing, and then I started trying to collect comics somewhat, but back during the time when I was growing up, and Jose, you may know a little something about this too, is drugstores was about the only place like you could get them. Maybe the grocery store would have them sometimes in the magazine section.
My grocery store had the main Marvel, main DC stuff.
Right, and so I would come about them, from maybe a friend at school, or maybe sometimes I could find something that I was looking for at the grocery store, and it didn't matter if the grocery store had it, I would buy it. So, or I would get my parents to buy it. Nice. And I was just really, really drawn to the art, and then the story was kind of like haphazard. I would get into it, and I could never really follow a story past one book. So my favorite books were the ones that were just one shots, or Freak of the Week or whatever. Because the grocery store or the drugstore, they might have them, this month, but next month, don't even try.
They never had the same one.
So then, being little, they were all into Star Wars, so I had to wait till they got tired of it, and then later on it was He-Man, and then when He-Man came with its own comic, so I loved He-Man, because I could get a figure and I could get a comic. And I loved it.
Like mine came with a little mini comic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So good. But that's how I started. And then I got into G.I. Joe. And that's probably for a long time during my growing up. I really got heavy into G.I. Joe because it seemed that I was able to get more of those in, consistently from the grocery store than any other title. So a lot of my beginning background with comics was G.I. Joe. So
nice.
That's how I started though. And then, since then it's just kind of been getting out and then getting back in, and then having a friend, in school that, well, they were into Spider-Man. So I discovered Spider-Man, and then from Spider-Man I discovered Todd McFarlane. And wow, I was like, man, this guy's awesome. And then the other guys, and then it went into Image, and then it went into, oh wow, it was just now I've given you my whole comic life story. So
funny enough for me, it wasn't Todd McFarlane. It was I enjoyed Eric Larson.
Yep, Eric Larson went his run on Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I tell you, the way he drew Venom and the way he drew Punisher in the 300s, it's around 330, 333. I think he did a run from 330 all the way up to like 337 or something. Amazing. His impression of Punisher has stuck with me, and I can't see Punisher any other way than the way he used to draw him. Yeah, because he had that receding hairline the way Eric Larson would draw him, and he was just mean looking, and he'd always have the eyes darkened out, It was so good, so good. And his Venom was just killer. I mean, I loved his Venom, all the teeth. He's, Todd McFarlane always drew Venom with the straight, nice teeth.
Like gnarly.
I mean, it was creepy looking, but whenever Eric Larson would draw him, his teeth would be like this, and his tongue would be coming out, and swirling around his head and stuff.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah. So when you were first following a storyline or first getting into it, Joe, well, at the time, Joe probably just had the floppies or the single or the monthlies.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of got into it. I had a kind of a similar getting into it. It's just whatever my dad had that he was done with. Was I got into a lot of at the time Action Comics and Detective Comics, and X-Men was the three that you always found laying around on like the kitchen table or the coffee table. And so when he put them down, I picked them up and start reading them. And eventually, once I got to the point where I could start collecting my own, I found out that we had a shop not too far away, which was also an all-around hobby shop. So it was also Warhammer and D&D. Right. So that was just the bane of my parents' wallet. But I was at the point I kind of had the same issue where at my age getting into collecting comics was already at the point where they had started doing big events and realized that big events sell, and so comics were always done, or you didn't really have like a monster of the week anymore. It was more just like either sold in arcs, so it was X-Men Deadly Genesis 1 of 4.
Yeah.
Wow, I remember Deadly Genesis.
It's
Deadly Genesis was the introduction of Genesis.
Yep. And Vulcan comes in after that, and then he goes into the War of Three Emperors, which is so good.
War of the Kings came out after Genesis. Deadly Genesis. It came out after. War of the Kings is about the Inhumans taking off from Earth or from the moon and flying to take over. Was it the Kree Empire or not?
The Kree Empire.
Great storyline.
Yeah, and then
I had so much respect for Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah. We had Ronan versus Black Bolt versus Vulcan, and it was so good. So I just kind of I tried to find issue ones where I could find them where like one of whatever's, but that was how I got into it. That way, I was the guy who I didn't want to find like start reading from all the way from the start of the year or wholly from the start of the run, but I at least tried to find like the start of whatever the current arc was.
Right.
And then once I realized trade paperbacks were a thing, that became my way of purchasing getting into a new storyline. Was I'd find the most recent trade and then use that as a leaping off point. So we'll kind of talk about the different modalities that you might have if it's your first time buying a comic and you walk into a shop and realize that there is a bunch of different options before you and everything. There's a lot of backstory. So the probably first thing that's the most common is just reading whatever is available. This is probably more so not if you're just getting into it because you saw a movie and like the character and want to read more. This would be if your parents or your older siblings are also nerds. And how we'll kind of get started is, whatever is in the house, that's what you read. That's also probably the most straightforward because you don't make any decisions. It's all kind of presented to you.
Yep.
Yeah. However, then, if you rely on that method for too long, the downside is you may not explore every character available, and you might not find someone who really resonates with you. The nice thing about comics now is that there is a character for everybody.
There really is.
Yeah. But then we'll kind of tie that into just walking in and buying whatever floppy of the month is currently out there.
So,
yeah.
I actually have a thing about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A good comic shop owner, and not to knock anybody in particular, right? Because I won't mention any names, but a good comic shop owner, one of the first things they'll ask you if you're new into the shop is like, hey, what do you like to read? What are you interested in, right? And I've had comic shops where you walk in, they're like, hey,
yep,
you've never met
if
me in my
that.
life.
If that.
Like, it's such a bother to, you know what I mean, to have to interact with somebody new in the store. That, like, I know what I'm looking for, you know what I mean, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
So, like, a good comic shop owner or employee will ask, like, hey, what, how you doing? What are you interested in? What do you like to read? You know what I mean? And go from there. Like, I know that my shop, the guy I go to a lot, that's one of the first things he asks. And I commented on him about it. I was like, dude,
That's
you
awesome.
even asked that to my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I came in to see you, and you asked that for the first time, and you asked my kids, hey, what do you like to read? What are you interested in? You know what I mean? So he's very, very quick. Like any good employee should be quick to like say, hey, let me see if I can find you something. Let me see if this is something you're interested in. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Yeah.
And that helps to bring customers back. That helps to bring readers back. Otherwise, you're just gonna. I mean, I had a comic shop guy that he would kick, like, if he didn't get his books in right from like Diamond and whatnot, he would kick boxes and cuss. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? I'm a dedicated comic fan, but I don't want that around my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Like, definitely check your local shops and ask. You know what I mean? Ask questions, or they should ask you as well. But, like, man, I've seen people like get turned on to comics because like, the employees were engaging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, sorry, I interjected with that.
Oh no, that's good. That's the entire point. Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. I went to, I think probably since the last time I was here, I went to Corpus Christi to see some family, and I went. My brother-in-law took me around to a few shops. We were doing like a toy hunt, comic hunt, and
Nice.
And it was so funny because the differences in the comic shops. They have several good comic shops, but one of them, I mean, there was all kinds we visited, but there was one that, like what you were talking about, Jose. They didn't say, they didn't talk to us or anything. We went in there and there was people in there and nobody was talking. Everybody was just kind of doing their own thing. Nobody ever mentioned anything to us. And that place was a trap, man. It was so disorganized, and it was hard to find anything. It was hard to find the prices of anything on like all the back issues and everything. It just was not organized. It was, if that was the only place that I went to, it'd be a pretty bad experience. But then we went to this other place and there was a lady running it. Man, I've never seen a comic shop so organized. And I mean, the prices were very easy to see.
Right.
Everything was where it was in alphabetical order. She had stuff on tables. She had her back issues in the right place, by the way. A lot of times
What?
you go for any back issues and it's like, you can't, it's just a mess. But it was so good, and she spoke to us from the time we came in the door. She didn't over talk us, like
Yeah.
there's that. That's a thing too. But she asked us all the right questions and everything, and I ended up buying. I haven't bought a Spawn book, even though I love McFarlane. I love his figures. I buy his figures. I haven't bought a Spawn book in a long time, and I ended up picking up Scorched, as much of the Scorched series as I could get. I mean, it was like, it's $7 a pop or $8 a pop. It was kind of hard. Now he doesn't have it for that much, but that's how much the store had it
Right.
for. It was. So anyway, it was a really good experience. That's just the way comic shops are. You may get lucky and have a good one in your town that's really organized and really well run. You may not. But the good thing about comics, unlike games, if you're into gaming, it only takes you, with a comic. You sitting down with a comic, you go in, you buy what you want. Whereas like, if you play Magic or something, you have to kind of have another person to play with, or if you play any tabletop games, you kind of have to have, and you kind of go into a shop and you stay there a long time, and you will eventually, learn who people are, and you'll eventually meet people and stuff. That's always good. Um, but yeah, that was another thing that I kind of left out was my best friend when I was growing up. His parents actually started a comic book shop, and that was one of the things that really got me into comics. When I got older, I'd kind of gotten out, and then they had bought that comic shop, and that, like, I'd never even heard of a comic shop before then.
Yeah.
And he also got me into Magic. What a turd. What a turd. Yeah.
There's no time for taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's definitely something to be said about making conversation with the shop owner. When I one of my favorite experiences with a shop down in Orlando, right across from the Full Sail campus, called A Comic Shop, which is kind of a hole in wall, and then there's a full scale restaurant in the back where we'd also go there for what they played WWE pay-per-views there, so we'd go there for drinks and WWE on Saturday nights for the pay-per-views. But I went there for shop, and my girlfriend at the time was just getting into comics because I was into it. And he wasn't the owner; he was just one of the employees. But he seemed like a guy who either had read everything they got in, or really at least was reading the CBR digest to know where storylines are picking up and where they're ending.
Right.
Because he was able to summarize whatever is on the wall. He was able to tell you where exactly that was to tell you. So she's like, "Well, I like Elektra." He's like, "Okay, great. We'll avoid this one. This is the middle of a storyline. You don't want that. This is the start of one. This is a collection of something else."
See, cool. That is awesome. That kind of interaction is awesome. Yeah. I know here in town, we had one when I first moved here in San Angelo, and the guy was real confrontational. And I mean, he would order books for you and everything. He was really good about that. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just something. But we have like 3 now, and they're all good. They're all really good. You go in there, they want to know what you are into, what you want, and they have collectibles and stuff, which I'm into, So I say collectibles, but I'm into figures. I'm not into just collectibles.
Right.
I don't buy pops and all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people are into those. I'm not a pop guy.
I do.
Yeah. I think they look cool, but I'm into so much stuff already.
So I don't usually do pops and whatnot, but I had to pick this up, not to interject, but because one of our final assignments at the Cuber School was to draw ourselves as a Star Wars character, and I got picked Hondo, right?
Oh yeah,
Hondo Ohnaka. So I had to get the Hondo Ohnaka.
Speaking of McFarlane, this is a rare one, but this is the Mecha Venom.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
But
sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no.
Quentin, I apologize.
Well, no, I'm not a pops guy. I would, but I just, like I say, I'm into too many things already. And with Comic-Con coming up, San Francisco Comic-Con coming up this week. Man, every company, Hasbro, Mattel, McFarlane, they're dropping all these exclusives, and that just happens to be the 3 companies that I collect from. G.I. Joe Classified, Marvel Legends, on the Todd McFarlane side, Of course, he's got the DC multiverse. There's a movie coming out. He's got figures for that. He's got the Blackest Night series, and they're dropping all these exclusives and all the pre-orders that I had going that were supposed to be like August, September. Well, Todd McFarlane's like, well, I'm just gonna throw all these figures out right now, and so
Mhm.
it's like no, dude. You're not supposed to do this until next month. I don't have the bank account for them to be dropping right now.
Yep.
So
Right.
anyway, He-Man is, with Mattel, they're dropping a lot of exclusives because a lot of people don't know this, but they lose the license in 2023, so they're throwing
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe out,
Yeah.
to whoever will buy them. And I just happen to be collecting those. So a lot of exclusives dropping, a lot of pre-orders coming early,
Mhm.
and I'm sneaking figures in the house.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I
I guess.
went everywhere I went this last weekend. Everybody was having a sale. I went by Walmart sale. I went by GameStop. I wasn't even toy hunting. I went by GameStop to get my $5 off a month credit. They had like already clearance price 50% off.
Dang.
Then I went into Target. They had like several like tertiary figures that's kind of like on my backlist. I would pick that up one day. They had those for like
Huh.
$8, $12. I was like Spawn figures. So I was
Mhm.
like, man, you guys, come
Yeah.
on.
Right.
You
How
know,
dare you?
how am I gonna save for Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah.
My kids are gonna get I'm gonna have to carve them out as little stuff. For
Yes.
cut limbs off a tree and make them
That's
sticks.
right.
Yeah.
I guess to wrap it back.
Here's your Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back on subject.
Look, she says I'm Groot.
If
That's
you're,
where the branches went out on the tree.
good Lord, if you're looking to just buy the single floppy, now everything is so storyline. There are some comics that are like still monster of the week, mostly in the indies, but everything's so storyline driven. If you're just looking at getting the floppy, I definitely recommend asking the whoever's at the counter at the shop. And if they are a jerk, don't let them turn you off from the hobby as a whole.
Yeah,
Some
don't.
people are just
Right.
There's plenty of those. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what you do. There's
but
plenty of those.
if they're not,
True.
they'll turn the right way. So if you get something that you're not thrown into the middle of something, I have no idea what's going on, they'll at least get you a good jumping on point.
Well, as from an artist point of view as well,
Yeah.
like I said, from an artist point of view, please, if you like art, pick up comics. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't even matter what it is.
Yep.
To be honest with you,
Yeah.
you may not think you like it, and then you pick something up. And like I've had so many comics where people are like, "Hey, try this, read this, let me know what you think." Like, okay, it doesn't look like anything up my alley, but like that by the time I read it, I'm like, holy cow, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's art that I have seen that I did not care for, but after spending a little bit of time with it and studying it, because that's what I do when I buy comics, I'm drawn to the art.
Yep.
I really
Yeah.
get a real appreciation for it as I go along. Just for instance, I've always been straight up American comics guy, and I get kind of floored. You know, ever so often I see stuff, and I'm not really drawn to it at the moment. But the more I look at it and I study it, I'm like, these people. They're really talented people doing some of this
Right.
stuff. I mean, I remember when I first saw there was one artist who had and I've spoke about him before, Scott McDaniel,
Mhm.
and he did several issues of Nightwing. He did several issues of Batman. He's done all kinds of stuff all around for DC. But he had a website. He's the one who taught me about all kinds of stuff, how to make a comic page. And I really didn't care for his art at first, starting out. But man, the more I saw what goes into it and what he was doing, and then I actually started really looking under the layers of what was going on. Man, and anything that he does, I pick up because I just love it. And his art style put me into, because it's kind of a simplified art style. It's a little bit manga in some aspects, and that is what opened the door for me for other stuff. So you never know what you'll like until you look at it.
Yeah, and that's something to turn around. If you see a cover that speaks to you, just and you want to pick it up, kind of wherever it throws you in terms of the story, absolutely go for that.
Yeah.
The other thing, which is growing in popularity, and that's the way that I buy comics now, which is buying it in collected editions. This is either trades, hardbacks, or the actual story arc collections. And if you are, first time getting into comics, and maybe you're a novel reader coming in before that, and you want to be able to sit down with a full story, start to finish, with room for sequels, or because comics are this the story. Comics is the art of ending everything on a cliffhanger. But if you're wanting something you can sit down from start to finish, that might be something more so, which of course getting the collected versions, because if you're just getting that trade paperback. Usually now stories are designed to run in 6-issue arcs. So at least you're getting that full, someone's cat is going.
Sorry, it's my cat. Give me 1 second.
You're getting
he is getting on to you about something.
He is a needy cat. If he can't find the other 2 cats, he will meow until they come out.
My favorite thing is we have a cat that we have a toy mouse for her. So like 2 a.m. I'll hear something come from my door, open the door. It's just her with the toy mouse in her mouth, looking at me, going. But
time to play, human.
Yep. But looking for a trade or something, you're going to get at least a full story arc. I mean, not resolution of the villain, but or if you get like the collected, like the trade paper, like the hardcovers or the collected arcs, you're going to be spending more cash on that, but you're going to get the full arc either of a character or of a conflict with villain, everything from beginning, middle, and end. So I like buying a comic to sit down and read through like for a full weekend. So that's how I prefer to buy my comics now.
Yeah.
Dear viewers, this man is crazy. Buy floppies.
My strategy for storylines, like you were talking about for six book arcs, was to pick up one, see if I liked it, and then wait for the trade to come out. And that was and that's what I did. But like The Blackest Night, I didn't read it till just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And that thing's been out for a long time.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what it is I had gotten out of comics for a little while, and I'd gotten away from it before I was able to pick it up. So anyway, I did end up getting it. Love it. Oh my goodness, love it. It's such a good purchase.
I won't judge you like I do, Tim. It's okay.
Yeah. Mostly how I pick up comics is usually by artists, but that's because I am drawn to the art. If it has Terry Dodson on it, if it has, Capullo, if it has, I mean, there's just a list of artists that I have that if it's got their name on it, I will buy it. I will pick it up. Now, if there's one that I'm looking for the storyline, which is not often, then I will buy one and wait for the trade. That's usually how I do it, but sometimes I can't wait. And I think with this Scorched, I'm not going to be able to wait. I think I'm going to have to buy them,
There's a few arcs that I still collect monthly. Our friendly local comic shop did close down. There's one that's on the north side of town, but that is too much of a drive for me to make weekly. So I do I now collect them digitally, and then I'll go over there to pick up the trades or hardbacks when I want.
I think you just stabbed me in the heart, man.
I know.
Digitally? Come on, guy.
Yeah, but if you want to follow something by a floppy, but either just can't schedule your timing to get into the shop on time, or live in an area that is remote or does not have a shop in your area. I live in a town of 250,000 people, and our nearest shop is like a 45-minute drive away. It's very annoying. But look at if you have a shop in your area, talk to them and see if they offer a subscription service. Some shops will do that where they'll hold their books when they get them in order, so you can like make a drop in once a month to pick up those books, or do something like a Comixology or Marvel Unlimited, where you can essentially just get them delivered to your e-reader device. That way you can have your books on hand without having to worry about the commute. As I say, the bringing up the trays and the hardbacks. The reason why I think that's also growing in popularity recently is that we do have so many new readers coming in from things like the MC or other such influences. We're used to traditional packaged storytelling, so beginning, middle, and end is all in one thing. So it's a novel, the movie, or what have you. Sometimes we'll get them where they like the TV show model, where it's an issue is the same thing as an episode along the line. But a lot of forums, like, it seems to be the major complaint is like, well, I like the Black Panther movie, so in the back bottom issue, and I feel like it was 22 pages the course of that storyline. And to be fair, sometimes it does happen a lot in comics, but I think a lot of people are just like the idea of having a pacing system that they're used to when they're first getting into a new medium. After they get into it a little bit more, that's when I see people like almost like the more seasoned people are in comics, the more willing they are just to pick up more floppies or even just random one-off floppies where they don't even like know what this character is or who the team is behind it is, like the cover art on. And they're like, oh, this looks interesting.
Yeah.
But I think you need to kind of get first used to the weird of comics and the fact that it is told differently than other packaged mediums.
My suggestion is this. I have noticed the last few times, if you were a person who was, hey, comics are cool, I'd like to try a few of these. I have noticed in Walmart in the collector section, and I'm not talking about the one in electronics where the figures are. I'm talking about the one up front where you find the magic cards and all that.
Yeah.
They have started doing selling these like 3 and 4 packs
the sample packs,
of comics. I would suggest getting those because a lot of times they have like what Tim was talking about, the random one-offs in there. The self-contained books, they're out of print. If you read those, you like them. I mean, you're more likely to get one that's not like 1 of 4 or part of some bigger story arc or something.
And some of those I did get ones that were part of an arc, but they're always a 1 or a 2 of. I never got anything there's 3 or 4 of. So,
but another thing too is those have already been printed.
Yeah,
you don't have to wait. If you like the story, you go right on Amazon and boom,
absolutely,
you get the other one. But those are a good place to start because they're simple. A lot of times there'll be that one book, and I don't know how many times honestly I've picked up one book of a series and enjoyed it anyway. I've came in right in the middle of some stuff and I was like, man, this is so cool. I wish I could get the other ones, and I planned to, but it was really a good experience while I, going through it and reading it. But that's my suggestion is Walmart also, just pick up a book and read it. See if it's for you. If you like it, if it's something that you want to do it. Especially if you have any kind of art inclination, comics is where you need to be.
Yeah.
Comics is where you need to be because that stuff, let me tell you, whenever I start getting like, writers get writer's block, but artists get artist block.
Yeah.
And any time that I don't really feel like doing my pages and stuff, then I just sit down and read a comic. Man, I want to draw. I see some stuff, and it really empowers me to want to do some more stuff. And yeah,
kind of in the same example as the sample packs, which I even like have my own subscriptions of my own books that are dedicated that I'm dedicated to. I will still pick those up just because it's fun getting the random one off or like the random one shot of Nightwing or whatever that something I don't normally read. But what's in the same vein, something that if you're first going into it, see if the shop you're going to has a 99-cent bin or a back issue bin.
Yeah, the dollar bin.
Because a lot of the books from the 80s and 90s is more inclined to have either an extra big one shot with like 32 pages or whatever, or to be like a complete self-contained monster of the week.
Especially was it the annuals and the giant sizes?
Yeah,
they had like those. They made to me anyway. They made so many of those back in the day. You could like DC did anyway that you could like go just pick up one. It's like it's a huge story. Like especially the annuals. The annuals are usually like self-contained one story. Either it's gonna connect to start a new storyline, because the annuals were always meant to like start new storylines. Not necessarily finish one, but like kind of be like
they're designed as
like a preview to the next storyline coming up.
Yeah, they're designed as jumping on points. That way, if you got introduced, you could get introduced to a couple, like a handful of key characters, and then see where the story is going. But it usually was self-contained or anything like that. But yeah, getting your hands on one of those is great because it gets introduced to new characters who you might fall in love with, but also gives you one large together. But getting those older issues also gives you some of the history of characters, because if you're interested in anyone from the big two or even Image at this point or Dark Horse, they've all been around. Also, like we're talking like 20 plus years of history for each character.
Right.
So getting able to just get some of the backstory, it's a fun to get into that. Which leads into the next question people will tend to offer up when we recommend them getting into comics, or if they're just thinking about it, is do I need to read all of this character's backstory in order to get into it?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Whenever I first got into Spider-Man, I had no idea where Spider-Man came from. I was reading a story about a man who had the ability to shoot webs from his hands. That's all I needed to know. And he could stick to walls. And as it progressed, I figured out, just by cues in the story, different stuff, And honestly, the origin story, there's plenty of comics that start off that don't give you the origin.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those, because you don't know who it is, how they got to be how they are. And, you're just seeing a character that has these abilities going forward, doing these things. I didn't know the story of Black Adam for years before, and I'd read stuff with him, and he was one of my favorite characters. I never knew how he got to be who he was.
I can't say the same.
Oh, you don't like Black Adam, or you talking about?
I love Black Adam. I can't I knew right out the gate. As soon as I knew who he was, I looked for the who's who that had him in it.
Yeah.
Because I have to know what they can do and what they can't do. Like, man, like so many times we would have conversations, and even my brother, who is not a comic book person at all, at all.
Well, if I find them really interesting, I'm gonna do some digging. If it's
my brother will call me up and be like, just call me like, hey, what's going on? He's like, I hate you. I'm like, why? Like, I just watched Supergirl with some friends, and I had to explain to them the actual origin of Supergirl, and I should not have this information in my brain.
Yeah.
Well, let me show y'all one other thing that I picked up, and I recommend this. And Todd McFarlane, he's like a friend of mine. He comes over, we shoot pool and everything. He's paying me for this. Not really. Not really, but I just picked this up, and it is, you notice the figure is gone. This is what's called a page puncher.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is the Black Adam page puncher. And let me tell you, I wasn't expecting much. It comes with a figure and also a card. This is like my favorite figure right now. This
That's
is
cool.
so awesome.
I
But
love the widow's peak of his hair. Like,
yes, this is the
are
way
you
I
reading? Are you reading the
always.
new Black Adam book?
Yes, that's what I was getting to. Is in this package comes the figure, comes a card, and the book. And this is one of those one-offs that, let me tell you, it is. You could read this book. It's got good art. It's got a good story that, there's some stuff obviously that's maybe happening before. I don't know if there's different comics for the different ones, but let me tell you, this right here was pretty much like a one shot.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I've already read this thing twice. I've looked at all the art. I'm studying because I'm not real familiar with this Tyler Kirkman, but he's pretty good. But I've really enjoyed it.
I think he let's see. I think he worked on Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I was looking him up after I read the comic, and he's done quite a bit of stuff I haven't picked up, but value right here, because you get a comic, you get a figure, you get a trading card with it, which I'm not a big trading card person if you're not talking about like
but
CCGs.
those are more like collective cards. If they're like was it the multiverse ones? Multiverse just came with a card. It had a little bit of a snippet on the back of like some saying or some quote, but it was just art of that particular character.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they came with those until my comic shop guy showed me the boxes he had and all the cards that came with it. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
They've been for pre-order, but they just came out right now. They have Black Adam, they have Batman, Superman, and Constantine, and those are the ones, and they are depicted in figure form what they are in the comic book, which is awesome.
That's cool.
And the figures look nice, but there's also some other page punchers he's got where they have a little 3-inch figure and a comic, and I believe that comic is like it's an older comic out of print comic.
And some of those page punchers, if I don't believe some of them might be origin stories, but generally those ones are usually, at least they have some sort of explainer in them where they're like,
like an info drop thing. But they're like $10 at Target right now. I think they're Target exclusives. They may not be exclusive, but they're like, they have a whole little kiosk there. I haven't gotten into those.
But that's
so much other stuff dropping. I just can't right now.
That's how. If you remember Bionicle, that's how they were. Is they had the tube canister that had the Bionicle in it, and then right around the inside of the tube was the comic that had that certain Bionicles, either their origin story or an explainer story that would tell them what they were doing and why they were there.
Right. Well, I know for the ongoing Bionicles comic, Stuart Sager did the art for them.
Yeah. But so that kind of answers our question that we have different styles here. So you don't need to know the background story, but if you like the character, you're probably going to research it.
You will. You will if you like them enough.
Yeah. And there are different ways to do that. You don't need to read the first 100 issues of any character. If anyone read the first 100 issues of Spider-Man now, first getting into it, I would applaud them, but also they need help. But every now and then you might find something like an issue 0, which not too common anymore. I haven't seen it in a while, but it felt like every 5 years we got an issue 0 of Wolverine retelling his backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
Wizard used to put out half issues.
Yeah.
And those were like little one-offs as well.
Yes. And Jose had mentioned this earlier, but something similar at least. But you can also get your hand on something like a this.
Oh yeah, I've got one of those, but it's an older issue.
Yeah. This one's is now 10, 20 years old ish. It's a need. Okay, about 8 years old.
DC just put out one like that. I think it was like, I want to say maybe 5, 6 years ago.
McFarlane has got his compendium, and he's also got his every issue up to, like, he's got volume 1, volume 2. Yeah. I love those because a lot of times they give the character bios, and they give like the character, not maybe in their latest form a lot of times, but in their
some behind the scenes and some,
version
yeah.
of them. That's what I like about them.
And the different designs, like this one is really great because it actually includes like the different designs of Agent X, who is like kind of a random in-out character that doesn't really appear as much, but he's one of my favorites. But it gives you like all the details on Agent X. And then if you get one that's annotated, that's great because they'll say like as it goes through their backstory or like their different things they're involved in, they'll say, and they're part of this group. This comic issue is blank through blank. So if that's something that interests you, then immediately have something to go off and Google and spend more money on. And then also fandom.com and other various fandom Wikipedias are also great. Or
I have another alternative.
Yes.
Back the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability where on issue number 3 of Trump's, that's Kickstarting right now. If you back the Kickstarter, you can do as an add-on issue 1, issue 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 4 is almost done. As we speak, it's going to be kickstarting very soon, so you won't have to wait for it very long.
Yeah.
Teen Beetle, I think the one that's kickstarting right now is issue number 2. There's a one that you'll be able to add on to it as well, and also Switchblade. These are new characters. They're like 3-issue arcs, 4-issue arcs. Not a big deal. And you're able to actually get the back issues. So that's another avenue that you can take is back a Kickstarter, look on Indie Planet, search around on there. You can find some interesting characters. Maybe you haven't, like when we talk about Spider-Man, there's been so many movies at this point.
Right. Everyone knows the backstory. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like every movie has to hit the origin story, but anyway, these are new characters, new things that you can get into.
Yes. And that's also another thing is, depending on your shop, they may also have indies in stock. So look at Indie Planet, look at Kickstarter, see if they have back issues. If you find something you're interested in, see if they have it's already running, see if they have the back issues included in the package. Or if it's an issue 1, great. Look at your shop, see if they have smaller presses in stock, like things like
you tell them to get those books in.
Yes.
A lot of times, if you tell them, that, I'm interested in this. I know the comic shops around here do that. They will order specifically, and like there's a guy, he has like these plastic Sterilite bins, and he has them labeled on with people's names, and he just slips them in there whenever they come out.
Yeah,
and people just come by and they pick them up.
Depending on the place to look at, if I was up in Portland, all the shops there are super indie friendly. So Marvel and DC are have big walls, but they're big walls in the back. The first thing you're going to get into are rotating kiosks that have things like Edison, Arcana, all those different things to look through first. And those ones usually, unfortunately, don't get picked up as often. But what that means for you is that you're probably going to find issues like 1 through whatever on the rack and for you to pick up right then. Sorry, I'm having something pop up in the background here.
I mean, at least it doesn't sound like a cat.
Yeah.
No, it's someone's ringtone. All right. Looking through indies, and a lot of these characters are brand spanking new, so you're getting all the backstory you need right then and there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. And I would say too, you're picking up a book by people who are, I would say, more accessible. We do these streams every week. We do, we're on Facebook. I mean, we're pretty accessible. We're not like, some of these, like there's plenty of artists that I love that I have no chance of being able to email them or talk to them or any of that kind of stuff. That's another big deal about doing Kickstarters and getting to know indie creators and stuff, is that you can actually, form a relationship with some of these people.
Yeah. And if you ever, 10 years in the future, or whatever, you pick up like a back issue of Wolf Hunter or Soul Ascendant and tweet at me wanting the Twitter to store on in 10 years, if the internet's still in 10 years, I don't know. I mean,
if we don't have it in our brains by then.
We may be ash by then. But if it contact me asking for the backstory of any one of these characters, assuming I'm the same level, I'd be more than happy to, have the conversation and give you the encyclopedia in a tweet.
The 37-page dissertation on why this person likes green.
Yes.
That's what everyone wants.
Exactly.
Reading comics is fun, and it is a good getaway. And you don't have to have a poor life to have to want to get away. I mean, everybody likes entertainment. That's why you watch movies. That's why you listen to music. But it's a really good personal way that you can have a little bit of quiet time away from everything else that's probably going on, and have, a little world that you can step into. And a lot of times the stories that you find in these comics, you'll be surprised. It will really surprise you, because in movies, in the movie format, there's only so much that you can do. And if you notice, a lot of movies, they cram when they try to do these characters, to pick these characters on screen. From somebody who knows, after knowing who these characters are, they really try to cram a lot of stuff, and then seems like sometimes they forget a lot of important stuff, or they don't put it in. Comics is just an awesome way to really get a good, rich story, and you can follow it. You can follow the character as they progress. And if you're looking at an older comic, like we were discussing before, I mean, hey, you don't have to wait. You can just, if you like it, you pick it up, you like it, you can go on Amazon or whatever and, pick up that thing.
And definitely.
A whole lot.
Comics, almost more than any other form, are built or written in a way that you can bounce back and forth. It's like I'll be reading stuff that's current, and they'll go back and find an older trade or older collector to read that. Then I'll go back to something that that I may have missed in between my comics journey, and then go back to current stuff. And it all kind of flows because they all reference each other or build up to each other in weird ways. But you never feel like you get the full experience just by characters referencing something that happened to the past. Going back and actually reading through it is always great. So it's if you once you start reading something, never feel like you have to keep on going forward. You can always go back anytime and just bounce back and forth on whatever you like reading.
And I'd like to throw out there again about the accessibility. That's not just with indies. A lot of times we see these actors on television and stuff. There's people. One of the things I wanted to do before, when I was growing up, I always used to watch Star Trek. I always used to watch Star Wars. I always wanted to meet certain people. I always wanted to meet Stan Lee. I always wanted to meet Leonard Nimoy, who played a Spock. I always wanted to meet, Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, and different people, lots of different people.
Yeah.
And they're just not accessible. William Shatner, he may do a con every now and then. Of course, Leonard Nimoy, he's gone. Stan Lee's gone. But Stan Lee, he would go to cons a lot. Like I'm about 4 hours from Dallas. He was always going to, every year going to Dallas Comic-Con and all that. But anyway, what I'm getting at is accessibility to the creators. There was one of the people that I used to read growing up, Stephen Butler, Roland Mann. I used to pick up Stephen Butler books because they were local to me. I lived in Mississippi, where they were coming from, and I always kind of watched their career and watched what they were doing, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought that I would be able to be in a space where I could actually talk with them and everything. But now, I mean, Stephen Butler and I, we message on a daily basis. It's awesome. And I'm actually getting to do stuff with Roland Mann I never would have thought I would have the ability to even, be anywhere close to any of these people. What I'm saying is accessibility. When you get into comics, if you really get in and you really just find that it's something that you love, you can go anywhere. I mean, you may even decide, like I did, and a lot of others, look, I want to do this, and I would love to do this. I've got a story in mind I would love to do. Well, you can do it. It's something that you can do. And that's another huge deal. If you talk about movies and all that kind of stuff, you have to have crews. Have you ever noticed the amount of names that's at the end of those films? When you're a comic creator, it's you and maybe it could just be you, but it's probably you and 3 or 4 other people.
Right.
Working closely back and forth. You build friendships that you never thought, people that like the same stuff you like, just like what we're doing right here. We're talking about comics. There's nobody else in my daily life when I go to work or when I do whatever that I'm able to talk about all this stuff to, because they're just not, into it. But here I've been grouped up with a bunch of people who have a lot of the same passions and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a big, huge thing about comics too. Is it's when you get into it, it's something that is accessible. And
it's also one of those things where, I mean, we all have the benefit of working through essentially a publishing house that connected all of us. But if you're just looking to get into it and doing your own Kickstarter, it could just be you and some of the person you met on Reddit or like Instagram or Twitter. There's tons of people do collaboration requests through like Twitter hashtags. If they do artists for collab, it's an artist who's just looking to draw a comic and kickstart it with you.
Different venues, right? You're talking about like because I know not so much Instagram, but like was it Indeed?
Yeah,
Indeed, you can meet other creators who are out there looking for people to collab with.
Yeah, and there's tons of people who want to do it too. So you're always going to run into like minds. If you're just a casual reader, or if you're like me and want to get into the writing side of it, comics are a great place of world building. As a writer, you have a lot of room just to make weird things and do fun stuff. I'm writing a comic about in space. If you like reading old comics for the world building and just you can spend hours just researching out and even really reading the comic issue, but different reading issues is more fun. But that makes you a ton of fun in parties. Like Jose said, you're going to get everyone asking you all the details when the amount of people who asked me questions after Eternals came out because no one else had read Eternals.
Yeah. And that's like Quentin has said, you in a movie you don't really get a lot. Like I feel Eternals would have done a lot better personally. Because like when I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But people were like, we don't know who these people are. We don't know who these characters. How can we get invested in these characters if we don't know who they are?
Yeah.
Spider-Man movies, either you're going to get invested because of the movies, you're going to get invested because of the comics. If you read Spider-Man, like I went through all of Secret Wars, you know what I mean? Like I enjoyed reading Secret Wars. I enjoyed, the aspect before that, in Secret Wars 1, Secret Wars 2, the stuff with the Beyonders, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not even just Spider-Man, but like all of it. I like the Phalanx Covenant for Marvel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For X-Men, like that was one of my favorite get introduced Generation X, you know what I mean? Like that, those are things like when you're reading a comic, you can watch a movie, you can get invested in the movie, but after like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're going to be done, unless it's.
Yeah, then you have to wait 2 to 4 years for the next one to come out.
If you're reading a comic, like you get invested in a comic, like that's the reason why I love comics so much, not just doing them. I love working on comics, like every aspect that I do, between inking, coloring, penciling my own stuff, you know what I mean? I love comics. And when you read comics, even like between the trades, like I don't want to put my nose up at trades because I don't like them as much, but you know what I mean? It's a complete story and you get invested in it. Like I said, War of the Kings, I was invested from page to page to page. And when stuff happened to the characters in there, when something happened to Black Ball, when something happened to Medusa, you know what I mean? I was like, holy cow, and just kept going. Like, you feel that, like when you get involved in your comics, you feel that. Some people don't understand that. If you're not a reader of like novels, you're really not going to understand it unless you like really put yourself into reading the books that you read. And they have the capabilities of like be able to just captivate you and between the art and the story and just keep you like enthralled in it. And honestly, that's why I love comics.
Yeah. What happens to me often, and I've said this before, whenever I pick up our comics by the artist, and I go through and I study the art, but what often happens is I get a few panels in, and then I'm not even seeing panels anymore because I'm already reading the comic, and it's like you don't even see the panels anymore. You've got this thing going on, you're in the story. And I mean, you're seeing the panels, you're seeing it all take place, but you're not even seeing the borders anymore of the panels.
Right.
Your mind makes a lot of the action that happens
between
the panels.
When I say I study a comic, that's because I start reading, and then I have to go back to actually look at the panels, at the line work and all that kind of stuff, because I got so involved that, I lost my place, and I have to go back and sometimes that puts me 4 times going through a book before I actually feel like I've consumed it, and then it's just going back for reference, now how did he do that again? This thingamabobber that he did. But yeah, that's another thing I'd like to say about comics too, is a lot of times you're going to see stuff in comics, and I'm talking about concepts and story kinds of things that you're not going to see in movies. Movies are trying to do so many things at one time, they can't do everything. But and another thing about movies is they're going to do stuff that is safe, and they're going to only allow in the movie stuff that's safe, that they know that they can get people to applaud. Whereas comics are kind of the test subject. We're throwing this out there, you're reading it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. With movies, you got 50 people. Yeah, you got a director and you got a writer, but you got 50 to 100 other people getting a say so in, every scene. And, when you got a comic, you got a writer who has the initial idea of everything, how it's supposed to go. And then you've got a penciler who's got to envision what the writer's saying, and then he translates that. So then you're getting a piece of him.
Yeah.
And then you've got the inker who is adding the lines to it. And some inkers don't work with some pencilers because of their mentality. So you're getting a piece of the inker, you're getting a piece of, just all the way down the line.
Yeah.
But it's restricted to those few people, is what I'm saying. They have more control over it. You're getting to see something in its raw form.
Yeah. And really good comic. If everything is really well done, the artist is going to be the one who sets everything up, and the writer is going to be the one who sets everything up, and the artist is going to be the ones who deliver the punchline at the end. So, like, a really good comic is going to be the one where you're hooked on the drama for the characters, and you're wanting to flip the pages at the end. And then when you get there, you linger because you're seeing something that blows your mind.
Right.
Nicholas Gear, howdy folks, back to the campaign today. Thank you, Nicholas.
Yes, thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah. But
thank you.
Scott, or the end of Dark Phoenix killing Jean Grey, the build up of the action, you're flipping the page, you're both page, and then she's dead in his arms, and you're just taking there because it's this great panel that's well done, covers the page, and you're just the art that really delivers the emotional catharsis of the moment.
And then you might be waiting to, when are they going to bring her back now? Is this going to be the next issue? And then 10 years later, you're wondering, okay, are they going to bring her back?
Yep. But and then also another thing to consider is that, with a movie, you do have those 50 other people plus the crew, plus everything else. All those people need to get paid, so the movie needs to sell to everyone.
Yeah.
A comic just needs to pay its 4 people on the publisher, so they just need to sell to their audience.
Yep.
Yeah. We are running out of time here, so we're going to collect closing thoughts from you guys. So little last bits of advice. Someone's asking you, I don't like this character, or I like what I saw from this movie, or whatever. I want to start reading comics. Kind of closing thoughts on that.
I say
Quinn.
pick one up and just go to town, read it. And if it's something that you think you might be interested in, I will guarantee you, if you see one of the movie characters like Thor or Spider-Man, and hey, I really like this character, I would like to see more about this character. Let me tell you, there is piles and piles on Thor. There's piles and piles of storylines and characters you never will see in any movie that is in the pages of Spider-Man books and Thor and Batman and Superman. And if you're tired of seeing the same old, if you think that's all that Superman's about or all that Batman's about, let me tell you what, pick up some comics. You'll get to see some depth in these characters and not just the on-screen hour and a half light show, that comes along. I'm not down on the movies. They're good. They're awesome. I'm glad we got them. I'm glad we live in a time where these guys are depicted on screen. I love it. But at the same time, just know that they came from the books first, and it's from the love of people reading those books and those storylines that brought them to where they are. And so I just say pick one up, read it. If there's a character you like, definitely get into some comics. If you're into art, get into comics. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. No. And back to Kickstarter.
Yes. Back to Kickstarter.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that if there's a scene in the movies that you saw, and I think Quentin touched on this, but if there's a scene in the movies, the Marvel movies, the DC movies, a scene that you saw and you're like, that is the coolest thing. Like, I can't believe that happened that way. It happened in the comic first.
That's right.
Like, before it hit the movies, that scene happened in the comic.
That's another thing I'd like to say is you don't know what you're missing in the movies because you haven't looked at the comics, because there's a lot of shout outs and callbacks. Hey, I remember when, they're calling back to this other thing. This is an Easter egg, and then there's stuff like at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm not going to say anything about what it was, but they have statues, and like it's something to be able to watch that movie and say, look, there's the Living Tribunal back there. There's the, I mean, it's like, you're looking at these things and you're familiar with these things because you know the story arcs and stuff.
And even like creators and whatnot. Like I just was watching Suicide Squad with my wife and my daughter, and I didn't see it the first time, but or the 20th time, but evidently I caught it today. But the building they were going into to go save the one person they're trying to get, it was John Ostrander.
Yeah.
Like that's the John Ostrander building or something like that. I was like, whoa.
Yep.
Like, I didn't know that. I'm not sure if you know, but Ostrander worked on Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I know we know, but
Yes. All right. Well,
you can tell we're passionate about comics here.
Yes.
We really,
at a Silverline show on Tuesday.
Well, that's like the watching the Eternals, and like I was saying, like we got excited about that because you're used to the characters, but people ask me like, why I was freaking out when that's old enough. I'm getting to it when Icarus was the traitor and not Druig. I'm like, well, having Druig not be the traitor is the same thing as having Hellfreeze.
Yeah, read the comics. You'll understand that one.
Yeah, it's like, it's like they subvert expectations for the readers.
Plot twist.
Yeah, great. All right,
and see, that was a plot twist for those who were in the know, but for the regular watcher, it was like, oh yeah, so
okay,
it's a little plot twist. No, it's a huge one. You don't understand.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Hopefully this if helped fill you in. So now you have an idea on how you want to get started on reading comics. So we'll see you next week. Until that time,
make mine Silverline.
Yes. All right. Good job, everyone. Quentin, did you have something else you want to say?
I did. Don't forget.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.